Welcome to Ukraine Frontlines, a video series about the ongoing conflict in Ukraine where we discuss military strategy and tactics and apply them to command modern operations. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the two Ka-52 helicopters that were shot down on Thursday, 2 in 1 day. Below, I'm going to leave a resource in the description. It's going to take you to a link that's not only going to show you one of the helicopters being down, but it's also going to provide you with an article on information if you would like to read more about it. Over here, we have a target-rich environment with several different types of weapon systems. As you see, there is a Striker in this video. The Striker has recently made an appearance in Ukraine, and it was engaged and possibly destroyed by a Russian or an Iranian-made drone. But the video is cut short, and if you want to see that video, I'll link it down below in the description. You'll just need to go to the article as well. Here, you're going to see two different types of SAMs. So SHORADs are really important in Ukraine right now, short-range air defense, because of these Ka-52 alligators or helos, which are currently limiting the Ukrainian offensive. That's all covered in the resource. We have two different types. We have Stingers. There's around 2,000 of these in Ukraine as we speak. And then Ukraine's been getting real buddy-buddy with Sweden lately. They've been in discussion about getting Gripen fighters and I believe the CV-90s. So in this video, we have the RB-70, which is a laser-guided SAM system. The reason why this SAM is in this video is because the alligator and electronic warfare, there could be jamming in the environment. So the jamming will defeat these Stingers, but they will not defeat these laser-guided infrared missiles. And then as you see, there's just some Bradleys around the battlefield and some more Strikers. These Ka-52s are going to approach from the north, and they are going to get within range of these SAM systems. The Ka-52s are going to fly very casually, as you see in the video. In the link, it discusses how the Russians are not being so much as arrogant as they are just inexperienced, and Russia still isn't learning or adapting to this battlefield, as we see with the news today about a Tu-22 being destroyed over in Russian territory by a drone strike. All right, so let's hit this play button. The Russian Ka-52s will begin approaching the objective or their loiter area. We're going to switch over we're going to turn God's eye view off, and then we're going to switch over to the Ukrainian side so we can engage them, which we are already on. So there's also going to be, I don't think I'll have a link to the Tu-22 being destroyed, but it's relatively popular right now, so it should be easy to find. It's just not something I'm going to link down below. And then as you see, we do have these SAMs. And it's really important to know there's so much information coming out today, like the 44 or the 42 F-16s, the 82nd Ukrainian Airborne being deployed in Ukraine. And they have a large amount of NATO equipment, if that's what you want to call it. So Strikers, Bradleys, Leopard tanks. I believe I even have a Leopard tank in here. I may not. Yes, I do. There is one Leopard tank as well. Obviously a very, very target-rich environment, and that's on purpose. If the Ukrainians were conducting an offensive in this area, and if it wasn't the 82nd, they would be like outfitted or kitted as such. We're going to turn God's eye view back on. We're going to click on our map, and we're going to see where these helicopters actually are at on the map. We're going to see if they're progressing relatively quickly. Honestly, I mean, they're moving probably at around 144 knots, relatively loiter speed, and then they're actually not very high up. They're around 32,000 to 3,500 feet. I believe they weren't operating at that height in the video. I would have to do some math to figure that out, but we don't know exactly where the man-portable systems were launched from. As you see, they are getting a lot closer, but they were operating at a relatively high altitude. It's important to remember that these Stingers have a ceiling of, I believe, 15,000 feet, if I remember correctly. And at that ceiling, they should be able to engage most fighter aircraft, helicopters, and then they are pretty effective at 12,000 feet as well. So 3,000 shouldn't be much of a concern. I didn't mean to give that guy a course. We're going to hit escape. He should stop moving. We don't want our Stinger system moving out. Obviously, this isn't really a layered air defense. This is just some SHORADs right up here reinforcing the city and providing some air support. I mean, ideally, we would possibly put our SHORADs for a bit further up. We don't want them directly on top because these alligators do have ATGMs. And that's one video I wanted to make was the Ka-52s eliminating leopards. Let me know if you want to check that out. I'll be sure to include that down below in the description. We're going to take a look, see if anyone's been spotted yet. I don't think anyone has. Let's click down. Let's minimize this window. This is our 3D view. They still aren't showing up, so we have no visual spot on these Ka-52s yet. And it's really interesting to note that they're flying so high up. That's kind of a bit like just shows like bad operating procedure, especially in a contested environment like this. In that article, you'll see that talked about. It just seems like, or written about, that there's no real operating procedures for the Russians, and to lose 2 helicopters in one day and several in 1 month just shows that you aren't learning or adapting to the ongoing conflict. And then losing such a strategic target, like a strategic asset like a Tu-22 in the conflict, just sitting outside on the ramp, just shows that you're just not taking the conflict very seriously, in my opinion. And things do change, but it seems like their failure to adapt is kind of like showing itself right now. Early on, there's like rumors of the cope cages, as they're called, which are the cages that a lot of people thought were being used to stop javelins originally, if I remember correctly. But realistically, we're starting to see them on the Ukrainian vehicles as well. You have drones flying above and they drop grenades. And then if your hatch is open, you do need to operate with your hatch open and closed. And then you don't want to make yourself a very easy target to be destroyed. So we are seeing the cope cages applied to some leopards now on the battlefield. All right, we are going to go back to God's eye view here in a moment. Once everyone is in place, we're not only going to engage these helicopters with the Stinger missile, we're also going to engage them with the infrared guided. Like I said, there is no clear picture as to what happened, and we're not really sure why these helicopters were flying as high as they were. And that's just something everyone's trying to figure out, to tell you the truth. We don't really know what was going on and why it was happening this way. As you see, we have our first Stinger missile system out. The helicopter is making some evasive maneuvers. It should be quite challenging to hit, if I remember correctly. Yeah, a lot of this air-to-surface things and command modern operation is really, really difficult to pull off. And our Stingers are already engaging them. Hopefully we can down one of them right off the bat. See, they're jamming. So obviously this thing's making efforts to not get destroyed. I mean, as it should. And I'm really excited to get this laser-guided system in. It's a really powerful weapon system. All right, so we're going to take a look, do the illuminate target. So we're just waiting for him to target it. All right, and then as you see, he's just dumping so many Stinger missiles out at that guy. And, oh, that's our first contact. That's a first little good explosion. He should have a bit of damage now. That might make him a bit difficult. And we're just unloading. So this isn't like, by far, he's just taking a lot of damage. And we're just dumping rounds. Obviously, he's trying to evade and get out of that fire. But it's just not going the best for him. And then we have one Ka-52 down. We have one Ka-52 here, still making a lot of maneuvers, just spinning around on the battlefield. That was the Stinger. Unfortunately, we could not get within range of our RBS-70, which is something that I really, really want to see on the battlefield, or at least execute some maneuvers on this. He still has possibly a lot of ammo to dump. So when we think about layered air defense, obviously there's like short range or SHORADs, which we currently have on this battlefield. So our man-pad systems. He's going to be re-engaging this. So in the video, the first helicopter got shot down and the second helicopter broke off. There's also rumors that the Ka-52s are now flying with Mi-8s as well. The reason why they're flying with the Mi-8s is just in case they get shot down. So that is some they are adapting a little bit to the battlefield. But more, I would call that a bit of a passive, like a passive adaptation, because you're not really adapting in an aggressive manner, right? It solves your short range, or it solves like losing pilots, because your pilots are really valuable. But I feel like you're more accepting the risk at that point and not so much mitigating the risk, if that makes any sense. So when you bring an Mi-8 with a Ka-52, that does seem like a good pair. You can, if your Ka-52 gets down, you get your vital resource back, which is that pilot. And obviously the Ka-52s do have ejection seats, but I mean, it's still like you take a Stinger, you start falling out of the sky, and hopefully you can recover one of your pilots, which would be ideal, and you just lose a weapon system. But in the same vein, if we talk about the current sanctions that are against Ukraine Russia right now, is the Russians shouldn't be able to continue to develop these Ka-52s because they use components from other countries, and that's one of the arguments that's going around right now as well. Is that the Ka-52s are still? I think he crashed into the ground. So that's a maneuver kill, not so much a Stinger missile kill. So that Ka-52 just kept moving around, and he just eventually just spun all the way into the ground. So maneuver kills are a thing. They happen in Desert Storm. I'm sure they've happened in Ukraine, and I'm sure they happened in the first Iraq War or the second Iraq War as well, and World War II as well. That's the video, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Relatively short. Have a wonderful day. Peace.